This movie succeeds in spite of itself, which is like, it tries really hard not to. There's a lot of parts in this movie where it's just like, oh, for fuck's sake, man, what are you doing? Like, but I did end up getting caught up in the overall emotion of the movie. Some of which I have to put down to the absolutely impeccable acting throughout the entire thing.
That kid was amazing.
The kid was amazing. The parents were amazing. The grandparents were amazing. All of the what's his name? Billy, the gangster Ulsterite guy was amazing. All of the people,
even the minor characters.
Yeah. The teacher was amazing. The Moira was amazing. The little girl who he sits next to was amazing. Like, it's one of those movies where it's just like, I was just eating the acting with a spoon for the entire time. It was just like, and that pretty much carried me through no matter what. But then there were various different things that happened in the movie that I thought that rose above the sort of weird maudlinness of it that it had. Like, it obviously, this movie is supposed to be the recollections of a child. It's based on Branagh's actual childhood growing up during the Troubles in Belfast. Several of the actors in this film are from Belfast. Some of them also grew up during the Troubles.
Even the music guy.
Music is very Belfast based.
Fucking Van Morrison and then there's some Van Morrison in there.
Fucking there's some Van Morrison.
Oh,
yeah, but they also used Van Morrison.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that.
I don't like Van Morrison to begin with. I don't like his music to begin with. But then when he came out as a fucking an anti-lockdown guy, I was just like, well, extra fuck you. Right. I already didn't like your music, and now you're a piece of shit. So just listening to Van Morrison over and over again was like,
it gave me sideways nostalgia, because Van Morrison for me was when I was a kid and hanging out with my dad, who was like trying to impress hippie girls, and it was Van Morrison and Cat Stevens all the time, over and over. So that's all I heard. And so it was kind of a sideways nostalgia from this.
Speaking of this movie succeeding in spite of itself, I thought the confrontation scene at the very end, despite the fact that it has that god-awful song from High Noon playing over it, actually really succeeds, because you feel the tension in it. And then it's so fucking cool when the brother just flips the brick to the dad, because you had that one moment of him knocking the thing off his head with the ball, and it's like, oh, this guy can fucking throw something. So the kid just goes down and flips the brick up to him, and he catches it in the air and just fucking drills Billy in the hand. But then it's got that god awful song playing on top of it, and it's just
it's a bit on the nose.
It bit on the nose.
On the nose, yeah.
It's like that Crystal Method video where it's the whole head is the nose, and it's just like.
This did feel a bit like it was adopted from a book report he wrote when he got to London, saying why I left Belfast. And it's kind of like a lot of observation.
It had more of a feel of somebody remembering what had happened 50 years.
There's a feeling of, it was a half nostalgic, like, oh, the old brands and all the old looks and how things were put together in Belfast.
On the fucking movies and the TV shows.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. It's Star Trek for one.
I thought it was good. Yeah, the first one is Star Trek. It's like, what the fuck?
That was fun. I've never seen that in a movie before. Star Trek playing on the TV.
The Chitty Chitty Bang Bang scene where everyone like leans forward.
Oh, that was
good.
And
that was great.
And they all start singing. That's how a child would remember seeing that.
That's true.
Of course.
Like a child would remember. A child would remember that everyone leaned forward and thought that they were going over a cliff together, whereas like all the adults
probably only
was
him.
Right. Yeah, we're like, oh, that kid's fucking freaking out. Like.
It's so uneven, and it seems like it does sort of succeed in spite of itself, because it certainly has sort of slack qualities to it, where it seems like every time you're in danger of something happening, he'll cut away from a scene, like before you kind of get to that moment, you're like, waiting for something to happen, and then it's a sort of another Van Morrison song plays, so we're going to get another little montage of life, in Belfast. There's parts of it that were really affecting to me, and Tad, you're 100% on the acting. Judi Dench, who's nominated, because this is sort of another one of those. Judi Dench is barely in it, but she's nominated for an Oscar.
Well,
she didn't deserve the first one.
Right, she's barely in that movie. It was Elizabeth, right?
She was in that movie like for 2 fucking seconds, dude.
Right, she's in this one a little longer, but she doesn't have any big scenes. Her best scene is the one on the bus where she's telling a story.
Yes.
No, she has the scene where the two of them are sitting by the window, and and she's asking him like about his heart skipping a beat and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah,
that's a really good.
That's a good one too. I really got
Kieran
into the
Hines
acting
is fucking amazing
on the bus.
Everything.
Her face on the bus, just telling that story. It was like, that wasn't a big scene. It was a small scene, but when you watch a really good actor do a small scene, it's sort of breathtaking.
Yeah, that one, Scott.
That one, yeah, that scene.
Okay.
Well, again, with the frame within a frame. It's not showing up here, but there's this thing, and there's a lot of scenes like that that are just lined up symmetrically and
perfectly. I bet that cinematographer's pissed he didn't get nominated.
Yeah, I would, because he put a lot of work in this thing. I mean, it was some very precise compositions in this film, and just some real surprise. Yeah, that too. Some amazing flat on stuff.
Hey, guess what? They're on both sides of the divide.
Yeah, that's right.
Visual storytelling, bitches.
Yeah, that's right. But that was good. So yeah, Jamie Dornan did a great job, I thought, in this one. Just kind of a nice old stretch for him.
I think Hines did too.
Yeah, he did. He did a great job.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of like, again, it's like if any kid remembers their grandparents back when they grew up, they get that feeling, it's like, yeah, he was this cool old dude,
Well, but that like the scene behind you, the one that I was talking about, is the part of this movie that is a little weird, is where it's not the memories of a child. Like, that's a very real scene between two adults,
right?
And like, he's not there for that. He doesn't know that happened, but he knows that happened as an adult. Like, that's adult him looking back at what an adult relationship between these two people would be.
That's sort of what. In other words, you were struck by it's an omniscient eye scene, as opposed to the rest of it's all firsthand.
Well, it's not. It happens occasionally, because it also happens in some of the scenes that he's not party to between his parents.
Yeah. So occasionally,
which is something you would have learned about later.
Right. Maybe.
Right. Or surmised.
Yeah. I also thought it was kind of interesting. This is a story about Protestants in Belfast in '69.
Yeah.
And who was menacing Protestants in Belfast in '69? It wasn't the Catholics, but according to this film, it was other Protestants.
In
fact, his little girlfriend was a Catholic too.
Did the same thing with the IRA and
exactly. Oh yeah,
involved.
And you flip it around. You go to even Dairy Girls. Their biggest problem was not the provost or the
right.
Yeah, it was actually the IRA.
Dairy Girls was good because they actually kind of flirt at some point with the young soldiers.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, for a movie made by a Protestant, this movie doesn't make the prods come off too well.
Not really, no.
Yeah.
Like sweaty dude on the pulpit.
Yeah,
I was like, that was gross.
Oh,
by the way,
he reminded me of not the pastor, but the Reverend in Barry Lyndon.
Yeah.
Just sort of a pompous asshole.
Yeah.
I want to call out the phrase pestilential mortal coil.
Yes.
That's oh man. Like, I'm going to use that. Like, that's going into the repertoire.
Northern Ireland's not that bad. I mean, they've got nice parks.
I remember in Dublin, we met 2 Northern Irish guys from Armagh.
Yes.
And they were like trying to convince us to come up north. And it's like, well, what about the Troubles? And it's like, oh no, they wouldn't kill you. You're a tourist. And it's like, how would they know we're tourists?
Also, this scene behind me, it's like there's a little overlook over Belfast. This shows up twice. It shows up in modern day, and it shows up in this one.
Right.
And Branagh went through the incredible effort of reversing all this, turning it all back to what it looked like in '68.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of digital work in this.
Because there's not those high rises.
Yeah. Because it's like, if any of us did a nostalgic story about the town we grew up in, we do the same thing. We'd actually try to devolve it all back to what it was like back then. It was really, there was some nice work in there. There's a couple shots.
That's an interesting. It's interesting that you bring that up because one of the lines that I that really leapt out at me from this was the mother saying, "This is our home," and like I've never felt like that. Like maybe it's just because I've moved around so much in my life, but like you said, if one of us made a nostalgic movie about our hometown, what's my hometown? I don't know.
God,
does Sheila watch this?
Say that's where the other B says they're buried, Chris.
Yeah.
In the Italian cemetery in Colma.
That reminds me, I wanted to say something about Tad's original point about, you know, feeling attached to your home and saying, this is my home and I can't leave. Did any of you guys feel like we did, the frustration with the mother character being so reluctant to go when it was so obvious that that's what they needed to do?
Yeah.
She was taking so long to get there. And Sheila was out loud at several times in the movie saying, go. Go. And at the end of the movie, Judi Dench watches the bus pull out and she's like, go. Like, just fucking go.
Well, but the bus literally,
which is funny because you don't see her parents that much. It's his parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's just, you know, this
but the way the mother was so attached, and she made that speech about, it's like, we know everybody on this block, they all watch our children, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
All true.
Doesn't matter.
All true. And Sheila said something that they said back in Ireland, which was, you either leave this place or you stay here for your entire life. And those are the two things.
Oh, it's like Santa Rosa.
But well,
we'll always have
okay. Then you had the representative characters. She represented not leaving Belfast ever, and the dad obviously
but she does
more practical, and
she does leave.
And the ending, the titles at the end.
Why does she? Because she sees her reflection in the window and realizes, like, oh, I have to stop doing this.
Right.
Also, maybe pregnant.
She might be.
Yeah.
I thought the whole weird,
it was a weird thing.
Fact, the kid got swept up in the riot and they broke the window of the supermarket and the box of detergent.
Stole a box of detergent.
That was the Godard moment there.
The thing is, that was very much I think that was the breaking point of where the third act broke. You know,
and I love his excuse, which was, it's biological.
Yeah. Which then when it cuts and it's sitting on the table, you just see it says biological.
And the whole family standing there like a Wes Anderson movie. They're all sitting there facing the box of detergent.
Well,
that was a pretty funny scene where she drags
time.
What's that?
Where she drags him back?
Yes, the riot's still fully going on and they're looting the store and she takes him to put the detergent back on the shelf.
Which she never does.
It's almost
literally
the bookend
it
to the opening of the movie, which is where the riot happens, the August riot happens.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, she grabs the shield, the garbage can.
Yeah,
that's right.
Lid, and like goes and drags him back into the house.
Yeah, it was a little Thor moment.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he did
Captain America.
Yeah.
True.
But one of the things that was interesting is I didn't know anything about this movie going into it, except like I saw the poster and
the name helps.
Well, yes, but looking at the poster, it looked to me like it was going to be some sort of like frivolous, like about a boy type thing.
Yeah,
no, Billy Elliot.
Seriously, I was half into this and thinking it was going to be a musical or something like that.
Yeah, no, and then that whole opening sequence, and it's like, oh, I know where this movie's going, and then it gets to black and white, and it's like the kids walking down the street and blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden, boom, the camera's right behind him as they come around the corner, and it's like, oh, that's not what this movie's about.
No, but that was.
It is about the trouble.
However, there is a huge style break near the end during I think it was a dance.
Oh, the weird scene where the dad sings and dances.
The dad sings and dances, and it all just breaks down that non-diegetic thing. It turns into a musical, an actual musical. It becomes lyrical.
Yeah,
and it's just
that did not work.
It was just a very strange decision to make
for me.
Yeah, although as a
kid
recalling something like that, seeing like mom and dad having a good time at a party, I could see where that kind of flight of fancy might come from, kind of a mental space, you know, as a kid.
Which again is what makes the movie weird overall.
The movie's weird, man.
Dropping in and out of it being the recollection of a child. Like,
Yeah.
It does this weird drift through the whole movie.
Yeah.
I do want to say though, someone has been extremely quiet this entire time.
Which one, me or Jared?
Jared.
Extremely quiet.
Jared's corner.
I hated this fucking movie.
Hell yeah! I knew you were going to.
Jared.
I knew it.
I knew it was Oscar bait from the beginning, and he got it. He's got like 7 nominations. This is not it's not my kind of movie, dude. Like this is the only thing I liked in this whole fucking movie was the cinematography and the compositions.
Yeah, those were nice.
Which
and I also still think that's a little maybe lifted from a film that I might pick at a certain point, but Powell, he did Ida. Anyway, I think Branagh might be a big fan of this Polish director who's killing it right now. But
kind of reminded me of Schindler's List.
This movie, oh God, I think he wanted it to be
Ashes and Diamonds.
He wanted this movie to be like Cinema Paradiso, but also like a Paweł Pawłowski film, and it's just to me this movie is like saccharin or whatever. It's like so sweet. It's so I fucking hate this movie, and I think that kid is fucking garbage actually, and I think we're just fooled by the fucking thick ass Irish accent that he can act.
Well, you know, did you read about how they or Branagh like captured his performances?
He don't care. Branagh
he would film him. He would film him by lying to him and saying it was a rehearsal.
Oh,
take the pressure off.
Pressure off.
Feels like it.
And then eventually he caught on that they were doing that, so they started fucking putting tape over the recording light on the cameras as they were doing it, and it's just like, okay, my guy.
I was actually like a fan of Van Morrison before this movie, and now I fucking hate it. No, I'm not joking. Like
I know what you mean, man.
And also, what's with the modern day shit at the beginning? They don't explain that. They're playing like immediately with the montages. It's like, okay, this is Belfast now. Okay, I get that. And they're playing this Van Morrison song, and already like 2 seconds in, I was like, I fucking hate this. And then they go up the fucking fence, and it's like black and white, and it's 69. I'm like, okay, fine, here we go. And then they're playing Van Morrison through the whole fucking thing, which I actually don't think fits the mood of this picture at all.
I'm not even sure those songs are period correct, and maybe.
Well, I looked it up.
Some came later.
Some were much later.
Yeah, I mean, Morrison started in 67.
Yeah. But they didn't play those songs.
Right. So already I'm also like, yeah. So there I'm like, fuck you, man. This is not period accurate. But it's just, I don't like, this is just too sweet of a, I don't know.
If I was to peg a sin for this film, I'd say that it's nostalgic, but it's really targeted for people in Northern Ireland or Ireland, or like the British audiences. Who knows? People who remember this kind of thing. Because imagine if someone did a similar film, like say in Sonoma County, like it was all, flashback to 1968 in Santa Rosa, and they're building the mall or whatever, and there's like a big fight or something like that. And and the thing is, you see, and you guys are like,
trivialize the whole Northern Irish thing.
I know, the trash can lids and the whole 9 yards, it'd be like really a hell of a thing. But
I got 2 movies for you.
Also, did anyone watch this with headphones? Because I had to. I don't typically
I
do that,
actually, no, I didn't. No.
Okay, so I watched it.
I own my house.
And what's funny is they fuck you, Jim. They nominated it for sound design, but it's fucking awful. Like you can tell everything is in a fucking sound booth, and they've just shifted it. Like the sound design is really, really terrible.
I mean, the audio ADR is too clean.
It's so clean. It's so like no one sounds like they're outside when they're screaming from outside.
No, they don't put ambiance on the voices.
Right. If you're
this was in a lot of ways a low budget film.
Sure. Yeah. But everything is bad ADR in terms of like when they're walking down the street and everyone's fucking always talking like, hey boy, you fucking do that. And he's like, yeah. And you're like, you don't have any ambient sound there. It's just
that really is weird when you know that they shot this almost entirely outside on location.
Yeah.
Like
why did they just pick up the actors there?
I know exactly.
Rod's audio.
There is
It's
not
like-
one moment of this movie on one of those exteriors that actually feels authentic to me.
True.
No,
Well,
it
yeah.
feels
All
like you're in
backlot.
a you're in
That's
a
what it feels
Disney World.
That's what it feels
backlot.
like to me too,
Yeah.
Chris. Like, yeah.
From the
no
first
less.
moment where they come around the corner, I'm like, what's happening? Like,
Yeah. And I just felt like
I do not feel like I am in 1969.
No, did you
I feel
read your
you're in a
with all the
backlot and
credits?
you
This
put
film,
the
most of it was
color
shot
filter on the really clean digital camera.
Yeah.
overall,
Most of it
yeah,
was shot
I
on
mean,
two backlots in London,
it
in Britain,
looks
outside London.
good. Overall, I feel like it's a dude who's like,
No,
I'm
they
gonna
shot a
make
bunch of
love-
it in
It
Belfast
looked
too.
like the
Yeah,
sets
some, but
from
not too much.
Call the Midwife, actually.
I'm
Wild
gonna
Exteriors
make.
was shot
He's
in
like, I'm gonna make a
Belfast.
love letter to my childhood of sorts. Even but I'm gonna have it
What's
during
wrong
this.
with that?
Branagh's a B movie director.
He's
Like,
not though.
He's
yes,
not,
he
though.
is.
I
He
mean,
is.
but-
He
Yes,
is.
he is.
You
Dead
look at
Again.
the resume.
He makes Dead Again's a great movie. He makes
still
really
a
good.
movie.
He makes
Dead Again, I
really-
like.
He makes really good
Shakespeare
B
shit's great.
movies.
Again.
He does not make good A
No,
movies.
if any of you
Henry
guys
V
suffered
was an
through
A-list
if any of you guys
movie.
suffer through the first Air
Oh,
Cube
his
Poirot
Shakespeare-
movie he did, it's
All his
Shakespeare
Shakespeare
movies
stuff
are
I
stellar.
like a lot.
Well, that's
I like
because
his
it's
Shakespeare
that's his
stuff.
wheelhouse.
he
Yeah.
made one of the worst Marvel movies.
Yep.
He's like is
Oh, the
very-
worst.
What Marvel movie did he make? Remind me.
Thor.
First Thor.
Oh,
I didn't see
Thor,
it.
yeah.
Oh, it's atrocious.
Well,
All
mind you,
Marvel
don't
movies
give
are
don't give
bad.
too much agency to directors of
priori.
Marvel movies, but I know
No,
what you're talking
Jim,
about.
you're wrong. There,
Tell that
there's
to
are
fucking-
bad ones
tell
and
that
there are
to
good
people-
ones.
Tell that to the people who praise James Gunn and fucking Taika Waititi. Like, I don't
I
agree
like
with these
those
guys.
guys.
I like
Yeah.
him too.
All right, we're going far afield. I guess you just thumbs out of this thing. What do you think?
I just to like hold. I'm probably closer to Jared than the rest of you guys. It sounds like I actually
Wow.
thought I was going to get chewed up this
That's
evening.
because you're both wrong.
I surprised you guys like this as much. I agree with Tad. The performances are almost uniformly great, and for everything I really liked about the performances, there was stuff that Branagh did, whether it was the music, whether it was the just general level of artifice. Like, yes, the cinematography is great, but I almost feel like it was drawing attention to itself so much so that it was taking me out of the movie. Like, it was just another reminder that I was
Too
watching,
flashy?
like, weirdly. Like,
Well, you
it
can
might
do-
be
you can
in
do
black and
flashy,
white,
you
but
just-
it's too clean.
You better be able to.
Too clean.
You better be able to. You better be able to
Too
back up your
clean.
flashy with.
Yeah.
There's a
didn't feel-
movie-
it never
there's a
felt
little
like-
B
it never
movie
felt like the
around
time period.
71 about the troubles in Northern Ireland, about a guy from, I think he's one of the armies. He gets trapped like in the middle of Belfast. Like that felt like I was in Belfast in 1971. This did not.
It feels like a movie. Like the whole
It
thing
felt like I was
feels-
actually what it felt like I was watching a film version of a play.
sure.
There's a lot of
It's
play acting at times. Like the environments definitely were like, this is
And also, let me tell you
Like,
something from
like-
experience, dude. When a 10, how old is this boy? 10, 9?
9.
again, there's a little kid in Hope and Glory, and Jim might be the only one of the six of us who's seen that movie. And he's so much better at this exact kind of role than the kid
But
behind him.
also, I know from experience because I have a 10-year-old. When a 10 and 9 and 8-year-old see adults being physically affectionate, they're grossed out by it. They don't fucking smile. Okay, they
Generally
don't.
not. Yes.
They don't, they don't go, yay, my parents are in love. Yay, my grandparents love each other. They go,
Ew.
oh, fucking
Oh,
gross,
but
dude.
so that's going back to what I said is
That's Kenneth
how
Branagh being like, no, but my grandparents were wonderful.
Right,
And my
how
parents
this
were
movie-
fucking wonderful. So my actor is going to be like, all, yay.
how this
It's not
movie
realistic, I'll
drifts
give you
in and
that.
out of being childish recollections and then, as Scott said, an omniscient eye
Yeah.
view. Like
right.
it is a very weird. It never squares that circle. Like it never.
No, it
actually
doesn't. No,
gets
especially
to
when
a
we get on the
point-
musical part at the end. It's
can't-
completely off rails. Yeah, it's like
Right.
yeah, there's no.
No,
omniscient
I-
hero.
This is not as bad as the King's Speech, but this is Oscar bait bullshit to me.
This is worse than the King's Speech because the King's Speech is competently made.
Did
It knows what it wants to be, whereas this is
You knew
like
what it was.
less than the sum
Wait,
of
did
its
Jim-
parts.
But you could also argue, you might have a point there, John, but you could also argue that this is a bit experimental, which might be a plus.
Okay.
Did Jim have a corner or not? Are you okay, Jim? Or do you have a corner?
I'm
liked it.
okay.
Not that.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna
Nobody puts Jim in a corner.
Jim thinks
That was
no,
last
don't
week.
Don't make a
Oh,
thing
sorry,
of that.
sorry.
Don't make a
Morrison
thing
did.
of that, John, please.
Yeah,
My thumbs up is incredibly conditional. Like
Yeah.
it's here and here
Yeah,
at
it's
the
like,
same
exactly.
time.
It's like that's why I'm
Like-
kind of halfway through. But it's like
God, did I lean like this?
I
she
I
didn't see
would
it.
have been like this, but since Jared hates it, I-
No.
This is my one for Jim, though. This is the movie. This is
Yeah.
Jim.
Oh man.